Hello guys, Johnny here, and in this video we're going to be talking about what I was talking about in one of my earlier videos this week about why Ronnie Raymond cannot be Savitar. I personally don't think that Ronnie Raymond is Savitar, and I understand all the theories going around because of what we saw at the end of episode 19 this week. So, there is reason for the speculation. However, the evidence to support it just doesn't quite add up, and we're going to be talking about why it doesn't add up in this video. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Alright, so let's get started. So Ronnie Raymond, in the show, his real name is Ronald Raymond, but everyone refers to him as Ronnie Raymond, so we're just going to go with that. He is one of the two halves of the Firestorm metahuman, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. But let's just do like a little, I just want to do a quick little flashback of who Ronnie Raymond is and, what role he played in the show in Season 1. So, Ronnie Raymond was the lead structural engineer of the particle accelerator. When it started, the construction in 2011, he was the first guy there. He was the lead structural engineer. And that's actually where he ended up meeting Caitlin Snow. So Ronnie and Caitlin got engaged in 2013, and then in late 2013, on December 11th, 2013, Ronnie attended the activation of the particle accelerator with Caitlin. After the particle accelerator went online, everything was running smoothly until a few minutes later, a chain reaction caused by an anomaly in the core chamber caused the particle accelerator to malfunction. The only way to stop the particle accelerator from killing everyone inside of Star Labs was to readjust the system. So Ronnie went into the pipeline to the core chamber and adjusted the system parameters so that the explosion of dark matter would go upward instead of outward. In order to protect Caitlin and everyone else inside of the lab, Ronnie told Cisco to shut the particle accelerator pipeline doors so that when the blast came through the pipeline, it wouldn't affect anyone else. So the particle accelerator ended up exploding and shooting out that energy blast of dark matter throughout all of Central City. After that, they presumed Ronnie to be dead for most of Season 1, and then he reappeared again once Team Flash captured Hartley Rathaway, and Hartley told Cisco that he knew where Ronnie was, that Ronnie was alive. So with Hartley Rathaway's help, Cisco Ramon is able to finally figure out what happened to Ronnie Raymond that night of the particle accelerator explosion. Basically what happened was that before the particle accelerator explosion went off, Professor Stein was holding the Firestorm Matrix, and when the explosion hit Ronnie, it incinerated his body and turned him into pure energy. And it shot Ronnie towards Professor Stein, and while Professor Stein was holding the Firestorm Matrix, the energy from the dark matter merged Ronnie and Professor Stein with the Firestorm Matrix and ended up creating the Firestorm, who is, the metahuman Firestorm. Basically, he can control nuclear energy. Once Team Flash finds Firestorm, we find out that Professor Stein and Ronnie Raymond don't know how to split up. They don't know how to unmerge from Firestorm. That's why they've been trapped in the same body as Firestorm since the particle accelerator exploded. At Star Labs, after running some tests on Firestorm, the team finds out that Ronnie and Professor Stein need to be split up or else they're going to go nuclear. At Star Labs, Dr. Wells finds a way to convert the tachyon device prototype into a quantum splicer in order to successfully separate Professor Stein and Ronnie from Firestorm. After successfully using the quantum splicer to separate Ronnie and Professor Stein, Ronnie and Professor Stein both make the decision to leave for some time just so they can learn how to control their powers. We don't see them again until Barry asks Firestorm and the Green Arrow for their help in order to take down the Reverse Flash. So after they take down the Reverse Flash, Ronnie Raymond and Caitlin Snow get married outside of Star Labs, and this happens before Barry travels back to the year 2000 in an attempt to save his mom. While over in the past, Barry decides not to save his mom and just let time flow the way that it normally did, and he returns back to the moment that he left to stop Eobard Thawne before he can take the Time Sphere and travel back to the future. Now, we all know what happens with Eddie Thawne, sacrificing himself and, basically erasing Yabard from existence, all that. After that happens, a singularity forms inside of Star Labs and it starts to suck everything in its path. So, after, the whole thing where the singularity gets huge, finally, Professor Stein tells Barry that in order to stop it, he needs to stabilize the ring, which is the, center of the inner part that's actually sucking everything in. So Barry runs up to the top of the singularity and starts running really fast around it, and he manages to stabilize the singularity. After Barry had finally managed to stabilize the singularity, Professor Stein gets the idea that the only way to actually shut down the singularity is for him and Ronnie to split up, to unmerge in the eye of the singularity, which is the center of it, in order to use that nuclear energy that is, that excess nuclear energy that is bursted out of them when they split up, to counteract the energy from the singularity and then in effect close it. However, we don't get to see this at the end of season 1, but the beginning of season 2 we get to see that what happens after, Firestorm actually goes up to the singularity and does that. And basically what happens is when they split up, Ronnie gets shot into the singularity and Professor Stein gets shot down from the singularity. So the Flash is able to save Professor Stein from falling down to his death. However, there was no body found for Ronnie Raymond, and as far as we know, he was shot into the singularity. So that was just a quick little flashback recap of who Ronnie Raymond was and when was the last time we saw him in the show. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started on the evidence to support, my debunking of this theory. So, with evidence number one. According to the season 3 evidence, season 3 things that we've learned about Savitar, according to those things, Savitar is a speedster. It can be argued that he's not the first speedster because it says in season 3, episode 9, Jay Garrick says that according to myths and legends, Savitar was the first man ever granted speed, so the first speedster. So we don't have to say that that whoever you think Savitar is the first speedster. Let's just leave it at is a speedster in general. And the thing I argued in my other video the other day is that, I don't think that this person has to still be a speedster. I think that whoever this person, is could have been a speedster at some point and now is no longer a speedster, which could also be why he requires that suit. But, so yeah, that's the first basically argument that I'm making. Ronnie Raymond was not a speedster. Ronnie Raymond had a certain set of powers, and he had to merge with Professor Stein in order to use those powers to create Firestorm. Now, I know I've seen a few videos where people argue that, oh, well, maybe he got sucked into the singularity, and somehow he ended up in the Speed Force and got speed powers. I mean, there would have to be a really good explanation if that was the case, if the show went in that direction. I don't think that they're going to go in that direction just because of how immensely confusing that would be. Like, how do you go from the singularity, from the singularity sucking you into the Speed Force? Like that, to me, in it of itself, it's confusing enough. So I just don't think that at any point Ronnie, after he got sucked in the singularity, got Speed Force powers and became a speedster. I don't see that happening. So that's one of the that's the first reason that I don't think Ronnie Raymond is Savitar. Alright, reason number 2 is, according to what we've learned from, the show about Savitar, Savitar has really in-depth knowledge of Team Flash. And I don't just mean I know who you are, I know what you do. No, not simple stuff like that. I'm talking about in-depth knowledge. I mean, he even goes on to say, I know you better than you know yourselves, I know your fears, I know your weaknesses. And he has certain knowledge about certain things that have happened throughout the seasons that not just any person would have. Now, I know a lot of people have argued that this is another reason that it could be Ronnie, because he did know Team Flash. He was there, when season 1, when Team Flash was just starting. And I mean, I do agree with those arguments that he was in fact there, but I mean, Ronnie wasn't there like a normal, like a everyday person. He was there for a little bit at the beginning, and then he left, to keep them safe from, the army and the military trying to get him. And then when he came back, he only came back to help Barry, defeat the Reverse Flash, and then he was there for like another day, and then that's after that he got sucked into the Singularity. So it's like, you know, Ronnie wasn't really there much, even if he was there in season 1, or was like, you know, a part of season 1. He wasn't really with Team Flash very much, and the knowledge that Savitar has is beyond season 1. It's beyond. It's after season 2. In fact, it's all the way up until now. So I mean, the knowledge Savitar has is very extensive, and I don't think that just Ronnie just doesn't have that kind of knowledge to at any point, you know, be aware of certain things that have happened to Team Flash and with Team Flash. Now, I have seen some stuff in the comments where people have said, "Oh, well, you know, well he was trapped in the Speed Force, and in the Speed Force you can see past, present, and future," and that's true. That's very true. We've seen that in the show, but I mean that brings us back to the first reason that I don't think it's Ronnie. How did Ronnie get into the Speed Force? There has to be some way to tie everything together, and it wouldn't make sense. I mean, maybe he did become a speedster, but I mean, it would just be super complicated how he went from having nuclear powers and being one part of Firestorm to now he's a speedster. So, yeah, that's the second reason. Alright, so the third reason is kind of tied into that second and first reason a little bit, but it has to do with whatever the identity of Savitar is, has to be able to be trapped in the Speed Force, or, you know, has been trapped in the Speed Force for a long time. And this is actually one of the parts that a lot of people use as their argument for, you know, Ronnie being Savitar. It's that, you know, well, he's been gone since season 1. So, you know, from season 1 until now, that's a long time. So that's what he's talking about, you know, when he says, "I've been trapped in eternity." Now, that could make a good argument, and until we see the reveal, we won't know whether that's true or not. The question I've always had, and I think I've said it already in this video, is that, you know, what happened to him, like, after the Singularity? You know, like, where did he go? Did he go to, like, a different Earth where, you know, they hadn't yet turned on the particle accelerator, and then, like, a year later they turned it on and he got speed? Or, you know, how did he go from having nuclear powers, being a part of Firestorm, to, you know, being a speedster, and somehow going from being in the Singularity to being in the Speed Force? You know, so those are just one of the few things that just don't make sense. And until they reveal it and explain, you know, how this all went down, if they reveal it and it is Ronnie, they're definitely going to explain that, because I'm sure 99% of the people are going to be wondering. I just don't see the connection. I don't see how one thing could lead to the other. Just my opinion, though, you know, we will have to see until they reveal it in the show to basically see if, you know, I'm right or if I'm wrong. But I don't think that it could be Ronnie, just because I don't think he became a speedster. I think that he's dead. We haven't seen a body or anything, but I think that he died when he went into the Singularity. I guess we won't know that until they reveal the identity, and it's not him. So we'll have to see. But that would be reason number 3. Alright, so reason number 4 is actually about the conversation that Cisco had with Reverb on Earth 2 in season 2, and the reason is kind of obvious, you know, that it's kind of doesn't support Ronnie being Savitars, because Ronnie was dead, or presumed dead, at the end of season 1. So this conversation happened in season 2. Ronnie was nowhere to be found, or nowhere in the area. The only person that was there that I guess you could make the argument, you know, it was his doppelganger, which was Deathstorm, but he ended up getting killed by Zoom later in that scene. So that's another reason. There's no way that Ronnie would have, if it is Ronnie, would have known about this conversation. It's either, it has to be someone that was there, or someone who was told about this conversation by Cisco. And seeing as how Cisco hasn't talked to Ronnie, I don't see how, if it is Ronnie, or if you think it's Ronnie, I don't see how Ronnie has knowledge of this conversation. So reason number 5 is, if you guys remember correctly, every time that Savitar has talked to Team Flash through Julian, he says that Barry has took everything from him. He says, you took everything from me, and I want it back, and I'm going to take it back, and then I will destroy you. And he doesn't just say it that one time. He says it a few times throughout the season, where he just talks about, you know, how he had stuff, you know, how he had things, and then, like, how Barry took them from him. He never says what, but he says that that Barry took everything from him and that he wants it back. He talks about it like it's a personal thing, like something personal that he really loved, or someone that he really loved. So that's another thing, with it being Ronnie, it just wouldn't make sense. What did he take from Ronnie? It's Ronnie Firestorm, when he went up there to stop the singularity. They made that decision together. Nobody forced him to. So he sacrificed himself to save everybody else. And even in episode 16, Into the Speed Force takes the shape, or the body of Ronnie Raymond, and goes on to say, Ronnie sacrificed himself to save you, Barry. Kind of like he didn't, he wasn't forced to or anything. He made that decision to sacrifice himself to save you. So, it just doesn't make sense to say, oh, it's Ronnie. Well, if it is Ronnie, like what did Barry take from Ronnie? Because the only thing I could think of is Caitlin, but Barry and Caitlin aren't even together or anything, so that doesn't make sense. So I mean, if I missed anything about this, part of the argument for maybe Savitar being Ronnie, let me know in the comments. But as far as up to my knowledge, I don't see what Barry could have possibly taken from Ronnie, because throughout all of season 1, Barry was trying to help Ronnie, trying to help make sure that they could split Firestorm up so that Ronnie could be with Caitlin. So just as far as my knowledge, I don't see what, if it is Ronnie, what Barry could have taken from Ronnie to piss him off to the level that we see that Savitar is pissed off. You can tell that he hates Barry. Alright, so the 6th reason is the part that I was talking about in my other video as well, where Savitar says that he created himself, that only he could bring out his true greatness. Now, there's two, like I said in the last video too, there's two ways to look at this. One way would be, you could think about it as, I created myself, as in I gave myself my speed. I turned myself into a speedster, similar to what Eobard Thawne did, how he, recreated the reaction of the particle accelerator and gave himself speed. Or it could be the second reason, or the second, meaning to that would be, I created this Savitar persona. I created the suit. Because we don't know who's under the suit. Under the suit, it could be anybody, really. So, it could be, I created myself as in I gave myself these powers, or I gave myself this Savitar persona and I created the suit. Now, as far as with this one, I'm actually kind of lenient towards Ronnie, just because Ronnie is the structural engineer and he was the lead structural engineer when the particle accelerator was being built. So he knows how to, in effect, he knows how to, recreate the pipeline to the particle accelerator, which is the most crucial part to getting the particle accelerator to work. So I could see that happening, that he, recreated the particle accelerator explosion and gave himself speed. I could get on that train. It would just have to be explained very thoroughly, because as far as we know, he's just a structural engineer. He has no knowledge of physics, no knowledge of chemistry. Well, maybe a little bit, but not, it's not his specialty. And that suit that Savitar wears looks really, really, really advanced. So again, with that, as far as the suit goes, I could see him maybe designing something similar to that. I just don't know if a structural engineer could design a suit with that much advanced tech. I mean, that suit looks super advanced. We don't know what it does to the host yet, but we'll find out eventually. What I think it does is, I think that it's like a tachyon device, but it's your whole body is inside like basically a tachyon suit, which is why Savitar is so much faster than Barry, like a ton more faster than Barry. Now, whatever way that you really look at it is, my first argument with the first part is that I don't think that Ronnie has the sufficient knowledge, the sufficient overall knowledge of the science behind the particle accelerator to actually recreate the reaction. And as far as the suit, he is a structural engineer and he did help build the particle accelerator, but I don't think he has enough sufficient background knowledge on that type of technology like Cisco to go and build the suit that Savitar walks around in or runs around in, just because it looks so high tech. I mean, it looks it looks like you have to be maybe even smarter than Cisco to build a suit like that. So I don't see it happening. If you have an argument to support, that maybe he is capable of doing that, then just let me know in the comments. But as far to my knowledge, I just don't see Ronnie Raymond having that sufficient scientific knowledge to either recreate the particle accelerator explosion and give himself speed, or to design and create that suit that Savitar runs around in. Alright, so the next thing is actually something that happens in Season 3, Episode 19, and that's the part where, where Barry goes to go see Wally at Joe's house, or at their old house, and he sees that Wally is basically catatonic, basically like paralyzed and catatonic. He's not moving, he's not even twitching, and Cisco tells him that that's a result of Wally going out on like a rage hunt and going after Savitar by himself. And this was after Barry had just lost any will to fight and lost any will to even do anything after Iris got killed. So according to Cisco, no one knows what happened that night except for Wally, but ever since that night that he fought Savitar, apparently he saw something. And we don't know if he saw his identity or not, but I think that he did. I think that Wally did see his identity. I think that Savitar showed Wally his identity in order to give him that surprise that Killer Frost is talking about, and then basically throw him off his game, and then that's why it was so easy for him to beat him. I mean, I think Savitar would have beat Wally anyways. I just think that he showed him who he really was, like he showed him his identity to throw him off. Because according to Killer Frost, it's going to be a surprise. Like, you're not going to expect it. It's going to be a surprise to see who's under the suit. So, basically what I'm trying to say is, like, whoever Savitar really is has to be someone that would shock Wally. Someone that would throw Wally off his game and completely leave him in a state of disbelief. And, like, basically leave him catatonic. Just because of how shocked he is. And, unfortunately, Ronnie doesn't fit that bill. I mean, Wally wasn't even in the show when Ronnie got killed, or when Ronnie went into the singularity. So we've never seen a scene where anyone tells Wally who Ronnie is. So we know that Wally doesn't know who Ronnie is, and so it just wouldn't make sense. Wally has clearly seen Savitar, and maybe there's a slight chance that we're just assuming that he did. But the way that Cisco makes it sound makes it sound like Wally did see who Savitar is. And, now he's catatonic because of, what he saw. He's, like, basically in shock because of what he saw. And there's been a lot of speculation that, that doesn't have anything to do, with him seeing Savitar's identity. But I think it does. I think Wally did see Savitar's identity. And I think that's why in the future, in 2024, that's why he's so messed up, because of who he saw under the suit. So that's another reason it can't be Ronnie. Ronnie would have no surprise on Wally. In fact, if Wally had seen Ronnie inside of Savitar's suit, he would have been like, "Who the hell are you?" I mean, that's just how that doesn't make sense, because Wally doesn't know Ronnie. He doesn't even know of Ronnie. So Savitar being Ronnie and showing Wally who he really is would have no effect on Wally, just because Wally doesn't know him. So that's another reason why I don't think Ronnie can be Savitar. Alright, and the final reason is that also in episode 19 that aired this last week, at the end of this episode, we get to see that Savitar is trying to recruit Caitlin, or Killer Frost, as his ally, and in order to earn her trust, he revealed his true identity to her. Now, ever since this happened, there has been theories just popping up everywhere about, oh, it's Ronnie Raymond. It has to be Ronnie Raymond. She wouldn't trust anyone else but Ronnie Raymond. And I understand why this is happening. I can see clearly, why people would come up with these theories, because it makes sense. It's the easy route. We've been waiting for 19 episodes for the slightest, hint at who it is, or the slightest direction as, where to point. And then we finally get, like, a little bit of, like, a hint when we see Killer Frost's reaction to the identity of Savitar. And, it makes sense for people to just pick the easiest, kind of candidate in a way. But I don't think that it is Ronnie. I just don't. I mean, there's a lot of things in that conversation that he says that don't add up, and then there's something else that happens towards the end of that scene. But let's talk about first what type of like reaction Killer Frost kind of had. And the reaction looks similar to kind of like the face that Wally made, kind of like shocked and like surprised. But mostly for Killer Frost, it's more like disbelief. It's like she can't believe who she's seeing. It's like, like it surprised her to see who came out of the suit. And the thing about it also is that she trusted this person almost immediately. We don't know who it is. And I know that that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people are saying that it's Ronnie Raymond, because she immediately trusted him after he came out of the suit. The thing that I have, I would have actually, hopped on that train if what Savitar said hadn't been so weird to me. Because when Caitlin arrives, Savitar's basically telling her, don't fear me, child, don't fear not, child. I'm not here to hurt you or anything like that, And that's another thing that popped up to me. Like, why would Savitar call her child? If he was going to reveal himself to be, let's say it is Ronnie. Hypothetically speaking, let's say it is Ronnie Raymond. If you know you're going to reveal your identity to her to earn her trust, why would you call her child? Why not call her Caitlin? Or why not call her Killer Frost? Or call her something else? I don't understand why he would call her child. And I know a lot of people have argued, oh, well, he thinks he's the god of speed. He thinks he's the almighty, the all-powerful Savitar, and gods have children. And, and that argument makes sense. To me, it just like, Ronnie knows. Okay, so Ronnie's conscious. He's conscious. If it is Savitar, let's say he's conscious that this is Caitlin. So I mean, that's his wife. Whatever happened to him since season 1, whatever happened to her since season 1, he still should be talking to her like it's his wife, because it technically is. So I mean, I guess if you argue that he sees everyone as his children because he's a god, and he thinks he's a god and god of speed, that I'll accept that argument just because it does make sense. But the next thing that he says is kind of weird to me, because Caitlin or Killer Frost responds to him by telling him, you just want to be like them, and you want to bring Caitlin back. And Savitar responds to her by saying no. He's like, no, I want to make sure Caitlin Snow never returns. So I want to make sure that Killer Frost remains in control forever. And that's another thing. Like, why would if this is Ronnie, why would Ronnie say that? Ronnie never even met her alter evil ego, Killer Frost. Ronnie knew Caitlin. Ronnie met Caitlin, fell in love with Caitlin, married Caitlin. Why would Ronnie say, I don't want Caitlin to return, I want Killer Frost? Like, that doesn't make sense. And people have argued, oh, well, he went crazy in the Speed Force, and, it's been a while, and yeah, he has been in the Speed Force for a while, and he did say he went crazy several times over, but you don't forget that type of stuff. Like, you don't forget who you fall in love with, So it's kind of just like with me, I don't understand that part. Like, why would you call her first child, and then why would you tell her that you don't want Caitlin Snow to return? Why do you want Killer Frost? If it's really Ronnie, why would he say that? So those are basically my arguments about that. I understand that a lot of people saw the reaction that Killer Frost had to Savitar revealing his identity to her and automatically just thought it's Ronnie. I respectfully disagree. I don't think that it's Ronnie, and that was my last piece of evidence to say, to debunk that theory. These are all the reasons why I don't think it's Ronnie. We won't know until they reveal it tomorrow night. But as far as the evidence I have on the topic is concerned, I just don't see it happening. If they do make it happen, like I've said in my other video, I won't be upset. I'm not gonna be upset about it. I would like them to show us, exactly how all this happened, because it doesn't add up. None of it adds up. Some things are kind of, they're debatable. You can argue them, but there's most of the things that just don't add up. So I would love it if Ronnie really is Savitar, and that would be cool. I think that if they did that, that would be cool. It'd be a different direction, so that's pretty cool. I would just like, just take a whole episode and then just show us how he became a speedster, how all of this happened, how he became Savitar. That would be great. But I just personally, from my perspective, and from the perspective of all the information I've gathered, I don't think that it's Ronnie Raymond. I think Savitar is someone else, but we will have to wait until tomorrow night to find out for the reveal. But, yeah, that's going to be all my evidence to not support this theory, to debunk this theory on why Ronnie Raymond can't be Savitar. So I will be posting another video tomorrow morning, and it'll be my final Savitar theory, and it's basically going to be my last candidate suspect that I think is Savitar, and that's going to be the last theory that I make until it's revealed tomorrow night. So just look out for that tomorrow. I'll be posting that around, I don't know, sometime in the morning. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that for my last Savitar theory. Alright guys, and that's going to do it for this video on why I don't think Ronnie Raymond can be Savitar. Well, yeah, once again, if you guys like what you see and you want to see some more videos like this, just give me a like and a subscription, and I'll get out some more videos for you guys.